morning, everyone.
My name is Anthony Holmes. I did 33 years in penitentiary.
I spent 8 years and some months wrongfully convicted before being freed.
I was falsely accused of a crime that I had no knowledge of. And I was given 200 to 400 years.
My name is Tabitha Pollock. I was convicted in 1995 of my daughter's murder.
It's a long-awaited experience, to finally show my innocence.
Hello. This is like the rest of your life in prison or freedom. When I found out that I was having an internship at the Center on Wrongful Convictions, I was excited, I was ready for new experiences. And
most of the students are coming this experienced with a somewhat of a privileged background.
When I first walked up to the center, I was nervous. I was wondering will I just not be prepared for the kinds of things that I'll encounter at a place like this?
Good morning. My name is Jane Rayleigh, and I've not met you before. I'm an attorney at the Center on Wrongful Convictions.
The center identifies and rectifies wrongful convictions and other serious miscarriages of justice. I think that the experiences that you're about to have in the following weeks may truly be transformative in your lives.
We have decided to represent a man by the name of Marcus Wiggins, and it's my understanding that you are going to be part of this team and you are going to be available to assist us in our investigation. And so I'd like to take this time to find out a little bit about you and make introductions. You are?
I'm Kristen Kropchik.
Very nice to meet you.
Okay.
Okay, hi everybody. This is Katie Winbrandt.
Okay, it's going now. Oh wait, no, you pressed recording once and then you press it again and it says recording, but it's not actually recording.
There's the red light right now.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, what up?
My name is Abbas Khan.
My name is Alana Maradi, and I'm a third-year student.
And I'm a third-year law student at Northwestern.
My dream is to go to Harvard or Yale Law School.
I'm a history major, so I'm interested in, throughout American history, different discrepancies in the law. I don't really know much about the legal system. I mean, I know a little from class and, well, from TV. That doesn't really count.
Right now, I'm just trying to enjoy my life as a college kid.
I remember thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can be involved and read the horrible things that happen to people and, maintain my sanity.
I started working on Marcus's case in September of 2009.
First of all, I think we should start by saying that this was a crime that occurred in 1999, and Marcus was charged and convicted of first-degree murder of a man by the name of Theophilus Teague, and he was sentenced to 46 years in prison. We should talk a little bit about, how difficult it is to take an old case and to prove something called actual innocence.
There has to be positive evidence of actual innocence before we call a case an exoneration. We're not a criminal defense operation. We represent people in innocence cases, period. One of the things that the people who are wrongfully convicted find out very quickly is that it takes a much greater amount of evidence to set you free than it took to convict you in the first place.
Most people take it for granted that if you're accused by a prosecutor or a state's attorney, then you must be guilty. And the same is true of the general public. They think the same thing. If somebody is accused, he must be guilty. But as you will see while you're here at the clinic and reviewing some of the materials, you'll be wondering, you'll be aghast. How could this happen?
Marcus Wiggins has been through the legal process. He really has nowhere to go. I mean, he has been through the appellate process, and he lost. And, you know, there's something called finality. At some point, you know, you have to have finality in a finding. The only thing we can do is we can investigate this case, and if we think we can prove actual innocence, then we can file a petition called a petition for post-conviction relief based on actual innocence. But this is very, very difficult. This is very difficult. You know, we're dealing with, again, a cold case. He's procedurally defaulted, and we don't have DNA. So we have our work cut out for us. As I said before, we've got a huge hurdle that we have to jump over. So I think that we'll meet again very soon, and you know, we'll start our investigation.
To be a part of that is really crazy.
I think that you know, a wonderful starting place in any investigation, you know, it starts with the client, with Marcus Wiggins, and we have to know and understand our client. I have spoken to Marcus several times on the telephone, but I have not met him in person. But I can tell you a couple things. Number one, that he does have a stutter. Number two, he's a very quiet person.
I thought I got a sense of Marcus, but it was still a little scary and a little intimidating having that phone ring for the first time. I had set up my first legal phone call with a client in prison talking to me. He'd never met me. I didn't know if he would trust me. I'm this random undergrad. Jane left and closed the door, and it was just me and Marcus. So he was just really willing to tell me about everything. It was just so nice. I felt a little bit guilty asking him about things. So our client is Marcus Wiggins, and we interviewed his sister, Talitha. They came into the center and told us a little bit about Marcus's personality and his childhood.
But it was a stepfather and a sister?
Yeah. The interviews were really different. The sister was very open.
Oh, he was the funniest person you'll ever know. He imitated a lot of people from TV. Like James Brown. He used to dance like James Brown, and we used to crack up laughing. My mom bought him a Billie Jean jacket. It was red, and he had this little sparkly glove and these ugly boots that he used to wear. He was really outgoing. He, had a lot of friends. Everybody was crazy about him. We have a strong relationship. It's just kind of hard when, he's in a place that he's at, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I kind of distance myself from him sometimes because I don't know how to do. Oh, I'm about to cry. Because I don't know how to deal with it. But for the most part, I try to stay in contact because I know that he needs us more than anything than he ever needed us before.
I can assure you, once you visit a client, you become inspired, and it really motivates you to delve more thoroughly into the case.
Today is a big day. We're going to visit Marcus for the very first time. We have to drive a long way from Chicago to the southern part of the state.
Right now we are on our way to Pinckneyville to see Marcus.
I expect him to be happy to see us because I'm sure it's nice to have any visitors. Northwestern or Super 8.
It was my first time visiting someone in prison. I think we spent about 4 hours with him, so that's about the longest time I've been in prison, too.
How you doing? What's up, Ash? Hi. How you doing?
I'm fine.
Okay.
My name is Marcus Jermaine Wiggins. This is my case. This dealing with the lawsuit and all that.
Oh, yeah.
When they sent him out of court. I got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just some of it.
So these were the people you were with the night that the shooting of Hernandez happened?
Yeah. Unless they affidavits and stuff like that. And
Is this about you, this one?
Yeah. That's about me. Yeah. It's frustrating, man. It is frustrating. When I read my transcripts, I'll be like, man, it's just crazy. It don't make sense. It's hard. You know what I'm saying? You've been locked up for all this time for something you ain't do, and I deal with it every day on the everyday basics. Try to keep my head straight, just stay focused, and not going crazy. It's really on them and to really come out and just speak the truth about what happened, man.
A few hours with Marcus have completely changed how I feel about this internship. Until now, everything has been on paper, and now this whole case and wrongful convictions in general have a real human face for me.
The students are, in many ways, the lifeblood of our organization. They will be involved in every step of the process, doing basic investigative work, and we could not exonerate our clients without them.
And the thing about police reports is they're not necessarily one-sided or the other, they're just the facts, like what was found. Or so you think, of course.
When I first read the file, I felt confused. That's really the word I should use to describe it.
They identified him as the driver alone.
How could they tell
It's it seems kind of strange they would recognize him from behind with like a headrest and through the rear view.
Yeah. All of the witnesses and the different players involved, it's really complicated.
There was a lot of weirdness about his defense. The people that they chose not to bring to the stand and testify. And I have a lot of questions of why.
We need to know an expert's opinion on how the police investigation was conducted. We need to know his opinion on what steps should have been taken, what steps weren't taken, what makes it more or less likely that this crime happened in the way it said it happened or happened at all.
Today is January 8th, 2010. 2 days ago, on January 6th, I went to the home of William Dorsch, who is a retired homicide detective and currently an investigation expert.
Through a vacant lot, an offender chased him, shooting while he was chasing him, striking him in the spine and grazing him in the right front.
Now that there was no evidence of in the autopsy.
Yeah, well, this is the preliminary report.
Yeah.
It's written by a patrol officer, okay? He does an initial report, and he may give this report from the best of his information to the detectives, but it may turn out that none of this is even accurate. By the time, the detectives should do a much better investigation.
Could the crime have really happened the way it was described in the police reports?
Let's see. Maybe here.
What happened? Theophilus Teague was 17 years old, a teenager. February 17th of 1998 was Theophilus Teague's last day on this earth. He was standing in the street when he was shot at. He was chased down the street, chased through a vacant lot, and hunted down in an alley where he was shot in the back by the defendant, Marcus Wiggins.
Theophilus Teague was murdered between 9 and 10 in the morning, and Marcus was arrested for the crime early in the afternoon, just a few hours later. It's very fast. We're wondering how the police could be so sure that Marcus was the murderer. One big impression you get is that a lot of the details just don't make sense. We feel like we have to find a different way to understand the case better.
One of the first things I do is I read every report, and then the next thing I do is I go to the crime scene, because I can't ask credible questions of people if I don't understand what I'm talking about.
It was the first crime scene I've ever been to. That's for sure. It was a really kind of crazy experience, or a very enlightening experience, to visit the neighborhood or area where a lot of this took place.
Relying on what the police reports said, and I should say some of them are conflicting, this was the corner here at Marshfield and 52nd where Marcus is alleged to have gotten out of his car. Here's the alley in between. They started to run, Farley, Tyler, and T, but they ran through the empty lot.
So he was shot in the alley up here?
He was lying in the alley.
You read about the case, you try to imagine what happened, but it becomes a lot more realistic when you're actually standing on the corner where it occurred, or in the alleyway where Theophilus Teague was shot and murdered.
And the shooting was somewhere around here, the spray of bullets.
Supposedly about 13 shots were fired when Theophilus Teague died. How could no bullets be found in this abandoned lot? Did the police come to the scene for the car accident?
No.
So really, it might just never have happened.
You're not the first person who has suggested that. Some people have looked at this record and said maybe it just Didn't happen at all.
Take a common sense look at what the surroundings are, if this really happened the way the prosecution said it was. Or would it be more conducive to a body being dumped out of the back of the car?
Alana decided to drive back up to see Bill Dorsch and ask him a few more questions.
I told him about the evidence that was collected, the evidence that wasn't collected, and asked him what he thought about everything. And he was able to confirm some of our suspicions.
All right. So it appears that they have never done the car, they have never done the crime scene, they've never done a canvas. All right. There's a problem here because it doesn't sound like the police went back to the scene to really look for the bullet evidence. You really don't have the ballistic evidence because there's no shell casings found. What you have only is testimony from people that say, I heard so many shots, correct?
Right.
And you never know how many bullets you fired until it's over and you can check your weapon.
Okay.
The detectives got the call to go to the hospital. At the hospital, they had the victim who's deceased. They probably had the witnesses there. They acquired a name and they pursued the offender, and the crime scene was not done. And definitely no canvas done. That's big.
And that's typically done, the canvassing.
It should be done, but it's evidently it's not done, because there should be a report that says, I went to 2842, the 3-flat apartment, I rang each and every bell, and I talked to people on the first floor, second floor wasn't home, and I talked to people on the third floor. Well, that means you gotta go back and talk to the second floor because nobody was home. Somebody's gotta go back again. You need as many witnesses as you can get. You have to make the effort. It's essential that that be done.
The other thing that didn't end up in evidence were the clothing that Theophilus Teague was wearing. The coroner in his autopsy report said that the body was received with a red t-shirt and some boxer shorts. But this was February in Chicago, and certainly Theophilus Teague would have been wearing more clothing than that when he was murdered.
If they didn't do a gunshot residue test, you can ask for a gunshot residue test on Marcus's clothing.
If they're still around.
Well, I would, if they didn't take it from, yeah.
Where those clothing are, we don't know.
No bullet, no clothes. I mean, they should have been called to the hospital to recover that. And also they should have been sent to the crime scene. You know, so it doesn't fit, really. It doesn't fit.
Mr. Dorsch was able to confirm that something went wrong with the police work and that there were a lot of flaws. All right, that's it.
The case seems to stink. Like, there's a lot that seems off about it.
I didn't think it would be so obvious that there were errors made or, missing information.
The evidence that we were presented with, when I saw it, I was just like, well, it's obvious he isn't guilty. I mean.
The other thing that we can't forget is the fact that Marcus Wiggins had an alibi at the time of this crime. And, there's an old adage that criminal case, there's no such thing as a good alibi. And it's because you can always poke, unless you're on camera, you can always poke holes in an alibi. And alibis are always, of course, suspect when they come from your family or your friends. But, think about what your alibi would be if you were accused of a crime, on a Friday or Saturday night. You're going to be with your friends or you're going to be with your family. In this case, we have a situation where Marcus Wiggins was somewhere else at the time.
We need to know where he was the day the crime occurred, how the arrest took place, and who can prove his alibi.
He wasn't rushing to get out. He was just like, I'm finna go get the rent money, and I'll be back.
So Marcus said, okay, I'll be right back. Let me go find my mama or whatever. I'm finna go get their part of the rent. He wasn't gone no more than about 20 minutes. He came in the door, he spoke, he smiled, and he picked up the baby.
He like, here go the money. Get it to your mom. And I'm like, okay. So he laid down, cut the TV on, picked up my daughter, laid her on him as usual. And he was just watching TV.
2 minutes later, the police was breaking my door down with guns everywhere. I'm screaming, saying, he got the baby in his hand. Don't shoot, don't shoot.
They was so rude, very rude. And I was mad, and I seen Marcus in the back. He was holding my daughter. And they was like holding a gun, tell him if he moved, they gonna shoot if he try to run.
And they grabbed my grandbaby up by one arm and slung her to me. And as they was taking him down the stairs, I was asking, what happened? What'd he do? They weren't giving me no answers. And from that day, I haven't seen them no more.
When they come there with their guns out, they say that we want to talk to you. Why do y'all want to talk to me with y'all guns out? If anything, y'all should have came and said, maybe we want to talk to you, because I'm not arrested for anything. I'm not. They didn't have a warrant for me, so they came to my house and said, we need to talk to you about a rape. A rape.
The fact that there was no physical evidence in this crime also makes me think about how easy it was for Marcus to be convicted.
You know, the other part of this case that makes no sense is the whole car issue. Marcus Wiggins had a black Chevrolet at the time. You know, he said, you know, could not have been me. I wasn't driving that car because my car was in the repair shop. And, you know, certainly the police believed that his car was involved because they went to where his car was being repaired, they had it towed, and then they destroyed it within a few weeks. Why?
The way the opening statements were talking about how Marcus Wiggins was on a mission, like making it seem like Marcus Wiggins wanted to kill for a purpose. But what is the purpose? It just doesn't make sense, because I could say, like, oh, if he hit Wiggins's car, then he got angry, but he didn't hit Wiggins's car.
Yeah. And then also the fact that his car was a different color, just all these things. I know Jay was talking about how she was going to interview the previous lawyer and find out, but there has to be something there.
We need to know more about the car he was driving at the time the crime occurred.
Our investigations was trying to find out what had happened to the car. The police had confiscated his car and inventoried his car, and I put in a stop order to, you know, keep the car intact. It is very unusual for them to destroy a piece of evidence while a case is pending. And the fact that his car was destroyed by the time I got assigned to the case was very unsettling.
Okay, well, first we're looking for the witness who sold Marcus the car that was inoperable.
What kind of car?
It was a Chevrolet Celebrity. It was black with white on the front.
So the color of the car was probably one of the most important pieces. So the car that he said he owned was destroyed by the police. I had like an old picture of it. Talked to witnesses because his car is black, but the car that was described in the shooting was burgundy and maroon, then that could not be the car used.
Are those all cars?
Yeah, it's a lot of cars.
Maybe, is she like a car dealer?
There we go. There's the 1985 Chevy
there's the
Celebrity.
car. That's,
What
is it, does it?
Got it. Let's see what that. Okay, so here's a phone number. This is the most current address.
Okay.
This is the phone number that's connected to that address. It doesn't mean that it's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah. Will that be helpful?
Yeah, that'll be really helpful.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Hi.
Sorry, am I interrupting stuff?
No, come on in.
Okay.
What's going on?
We found a few exciting things. This is the car she said. It was a 1985 Chevrolet Celebrity. We have the tag number. We have the VIN number.
This is wonderful. So this is the person who claims that she sold Marcus the car that he had at the time that this crime occurred, the car that he claimed was in the car shop.
Right.
That would be that is wonderful news. That's great. So what we want to do is we want to find her, we want to interview her, and we want to talk to her about what was wrong with this car.
Exactly.
When she sold it to Marcus.
Yeah.
Yes, Tamika Gayton, please. Oh, Tamika, my name's Margaret Soffin. I'm looking for information about a vehicle that you sold to Marcus Wiggins about 10 years ago. Marcus Wiggins? It was a 1985 Chevy Celebrity. Let me tell you why I'm calling. I am an attorney and I am working on, pardon me? Oh.
Was she nasty?
She hung up.
Oh.
I probably shouldn't have said attorney.
Yeah.
I think it scared her. That's why it's nice when students call.
Yeah. There was no physical evidence in the case. He was convicted completely based on witness testimony, or supposed witness testimony.
We have a situation where the crime scene does not make sense. Does not make sense that certain evidence was destroyed shortly after the crime occurred. You know, all of those are puzzles in this case. But that's all we have at this point, and that's not enough to file a petition based on actual innocence.
Hi, my name's Kristen Kravchuk. My phone number is 3.
So that would be afterwards. He testified, was he asked about his prior record? You know, we have to sort of decide where our investigation is going to take us. And the way I see it, he was convicted based on the testimony of an R.L. Mahan. He was convicted based on the testimony of a Cedric Farley, and he was convicted based on the testimony of a Kelly Stokes. But we need to hear from a witness who actually testified at trial that, you know, I lied. I testified falsely, you know, for this reason. We need to hear that. We need to have a witness feel comfortable putting that on paper. What we do know, though, is that R.L. Mahan did tell people that he also lied in the trial against Marcus Wiggins, and that Marcus Wiggins was not there that day.
So he had recanted. He had told Marcus's ex-girlfriend that he lied, and he had told an attorney that he lied.
One day I think I was going to the store or coming from the store or something like that. And he walked up to me and he said, hey, I'm looking at him like, you know, I'm thinking to my man, why is you talking to me? And he said, let me talk to Marcus's mom. So I called on her phone and I told her, I said, all right here, he wanted to talk to you. She like, no, what you want to talk to me for? I said, no, he just wanted to talk to you and let you know, see what he can do to help Marcus's case, because he know that he didn't do that. So they talked on the phone.
On the day that he was going to go sign a paper saying that he testified falsely at Marcus's trial, he was shot in the mouth and killed.
Perhaps the most damaging testimony at trial came from this man by the name of Cedric Farley. And I think he's key to the case. Cedric Farley is the one who viewed a lineup and identified Marcus Wiggins as the shooter. And we have not been able to locate him as of this date. And so we are going to need the assistance of a private investigator.
My name is Cynthia Estes. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I was thinking we could go to the Fairfield address.
Cedric Farley, if you out there, man, and I just hope, man, that you find out all the facts, man, and really come forth, man, and tell the truth, because I ain't kill your cousin.
There goes Jimmy, and we just talked to Jimmy, and he is the nephew of Cedric. So this is the best lead we've had yet on Cedric, I think.
He was actually very nice. I mean, a lot of it has to do with Cynthia's brilliant talking there.
I talked fast. I talked really fast. I told him he was good looking about 25 times, but that didn't do it. He doesn't know who the Teagues are, and he doesn't know who our client is. Cedric is coming back. It was like Thursday afternoon from Memphis. So there's a possibility we could maybe talk to Cedric maybe Thursday.
So when Cedric Farley showed up and found his cousin on the ground shot, supposedly he asked, "Who did this to you?"
So what that tells me, though, is having to ask the victim the question, "Who did this to you?" tells me that he doesn't know. That means he doesn't see the shooting.
Where are we on trying to locate Cedric Farley?
Well, the last time Abbas and Alana and I went out, and that was early November, we went to an address that we were given, and we spoke to a young man, I would say 16, 17 years old maybe, whose name was Maurice. And he said Cedric Farley is his uncle, and that he does not live at that home. He does not know where Cedric Farley lives. So that's the last update on the Farley situation.
Kelly Stokes, well, I was the guy who testified against me. I knew his whole family. Kelly Stokes, he said that that the homicide detective forced him to say what he said.
When I told him Kelly on the phone, Kelly said, Marcus, man, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I had to do that. He said, but them dirty detectives made me do it.
The Kelly Stokes situation, we found his house, we went to his house, and we found someone who called himself Kelly Stokes, and there was some confusion because this guy looked really way too old to be our Kelly Stokes. And it turns out he's Kelly Stokes Sr. The man that we want to speak to is younger, and he was not available.
Next court date is on the 14th.
Who's that? Who?
Kelly Stokes.
He's in jail?
He's not, I think he's out.
Oh, either way, we could catch him at the courthourhouse, right?
Right.
On the 14th.
On the 14th, yeah.
They've changed.
Call for, so that's the number we call.
Yeah, let's just call the jail.
Yeah,
and see if he's
yeah. Abbas, you want to do that?
Yes.
And find out.
if he's there.
This morning, I met Margaret in the city. Okay, so this is Kristen talking, and me and Margaret are leaving the criminal courthouse. Okay, so there's Margaret driving. We went to try to find Kelly Stokes.
Because I feel a little bit like we've been stalking him. I met him, this is the third time I've spoken face-to-face with him. The first time was at his house while he was engaged in business activities, standing outside, and he really didn't want us to be there. And he was very nervous about it.
At first, we didn't see him for a while, and we were kind of nervous, like, where is he? You know, and then he came in the door, and Margaret recognized him.
He turned around, he nodded at me, and he was with his girlfriend, and I spoke to her and said, how's the baby?
So we said hello, and then he asked if we were there for him. And Margaret said, yes, we are. And so he sort of motioned and said, let's go outside and talk about this.
We went outside of the courtroom, and I showed him the affidavit, and I asked him to read it and see if there was anything in there that was inaccurate.
He read over the entire thing. He said there was no problems with it, that it was all accurate.
And he said, he signed it.
Basically, it was actually that easy, surprisingly.
Very little drama. He just read it and signed it.
And then he said for us to tell Marcus, what up? What up to Marcus from Kelly Stokes. So then when he signed it, it was just like, oh my gosh. You know, it felt like a huge step to me. Like, this thing that we wanted for so long is finally happening. And it's just one step closer to Marcus, you know, to getting his petition filed and for Marcus to be freed, so.
I'm typing like nothing because I'm still typing.
We found Kelly Stokes finally, and we got him to sign an affidavit. But one affidavit, one revised statement by Kelly is not enough to get a judge to let Marcus out of prison.
This is a really hard case. The facts are so complicated, and we're hitting all sorts of dead ends when we're trying to find witnesses or uncover new evidence. And it can be really frustrating, in part because I think I came to the clinic thinking that it would be a little easier to prove someone's innocence.
I'll tell you, the hardest thing we do is to tell somebody who we believe might well be innocent, sorry, we can't help you. I mean, that's really hard. I mean, and if people knew, you know, how much we really care and how much we'd like to help, but we just can't.
I have a whole lot of hope. I hope. But I pray every night for him and his safe return back home. But a lot of times I feel like, you know, when is it ever gonna come?
I can't even begin to imagine what it's like for them. It's sort of like a constant loss, always grieving a loss, but never being able to move on from it because he's not really gone. He's somewhere, but, you know, he's not with them, and he's so far removed from them, so.
I'd like to believe that it'll be a good outcome. But at this point, we don't really have a case.
I think that there will be a break in the case. I truly believe that, and I don't know when it will happen or what it will be, but I think that something will break. I'm glad that Jane is working to help him. Just meeting her, I know that she cares so much and will not stop until something is done.
One of the other reasons we decided to get involved in representing Marcus Wiggins is because of what happened to him when he was, a 14-year-old. He was tortured and beat by a group of officers who were under the command of John Burge. One thing that has been suggested to us is that this more recent charge of murder was made in retaliation for the fact that his family successfully sued these police officers. Some of the officers who were involved in, the torture he suffered at age 14 were very interested in what was happening to him in this case. And so that is something that, we will be looking into.
Are any of the policemen that were involved with Burge or working underneath him still on the force? Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yes.
And they know that this is going on, like that these cases are being.
Yes.
Okay.
A Chicago teenager is filing a civil rights lawsuit against former police commander John Burge, former police superintendent Leroy Martin, and other police officers. He's charging them with torture for an alleged incident that occurred a year and a half ago. Channel 7's Russ Ewing has the story.
The suit charged that Marcus Wiggins was falsely arrested by Area 3 Chicago policemen and beaten and tortured with electric shock. The act allegedly occurred in 1991 when Wiggins was 13 years old. Former police commander John Burge was in charge of Area 3 at that time, and the suit charges that men under Burge's supervision violated the juvenile's rights in an effort to force a murder confession out of him. The suit further charges that the 13-year-old was held for 24 hours in an adult facility and not allowed to see an attorney or his mother.
They wouldn't let me see him. I sat there on the police steps asking them, could I get up to see my son? They wouldn't let me up.
My name is Julie Hull. I am here today to talk about Marcus Wiggins. Yeah, back in 1991 and 92, everyone was concerned about juvenile crime. And at that time, when the police were arresting people, they simply realized that the victim in this case was a 15-year-old Hispanic kid, and they assumed because he was Hispanic that the regular suspects in the neighborhood would be African Americans. And they went around and rounded up 11 African Americans, took them into custody, including Marcus. When Marcus's case came to me, I learned that the sergeants were under Burge. It was a Burge case. I knew the detectives worked for Burge. And I became alert. I noticed that when Marcus had reported to the Audi home, he had indicated in his intake form that he had been beaten by the detectives in the face, he had been beaten in the chest. His mother told me that he had told her that he had been shocked, and she didn't know what he meant, and she was quite upset by that. And I thought, well, this is an interesting pattern and practice that I should look into. Chief in my division, Xavier Velasco, about it, and got the go-ahead from him to pursue it as a serious case, especially after having discovered that Marcus had been held in the police station for over 25 hours, learning that his aunt had gone to the police station and found him curled up in a ball sucking his thumb on the floor. finding that the other adolescents, 16-year-olds, had been transferred from Area 3 violent crimes to Area 1 violent crimes after a private attorney had been notified to come to the police station to represent them. The police had decided to get them the heck out of there. Sometimes that's a practice that you hear about, that when a lawyer shows up to represent the arrestees, you know, to invoke their rights, the police take them out the back door and get them out of there. And you hear those rumors, but what was unique about this particular case is that those rumors were true, and the way we know they were true is those adolescents, the 16-year-olds, escaped from the squad role in Area 1, and they were charged with escape. So we have proof that the police moved them from Area 3 to Area 1 to avoid the lawyer. So there were a number of things about this case that seemed really wrong.
We have to know how Marcus's story fits into the bigger picture. His torture was not a solitary event.
What I believe is that John Burge saw this treatment when he was a military policeman in Vietnam and may have participated in it. I've interviewed men from the unit that he served with who admit to having inflicted torture and been present when torture took place. So I think Burge came back, joined the police force, and once he got into an interrogation room, once he began to use it, other people followed him.
I think most people in this area, you know, I think their attitude would have been, well, they deserved it. You know? So you had to use some rough methods. You know, and that's not unusual. Yeah, that's the same thing that's going on right now with, you know, what's the base in Cuba? Guantanamo. If you got to get answers, how are you going to get it? If you have to use, you know, some rough methods. I mean, a lot of people, the attitude is, you know, the ends justifies the means.
Torturing suspected terrorists is horrible because you don't torture anyone. Using the same methods to torture suspected terrorists as you use to torture American civilians who are in no way suspects to a crime. I mean, can you even...
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Everybody's all right?
Yeah.
Good. Come in.
Okay.
We are working on this case for a Marcus Wiggins case, and we're hoping that he becomes exonerated. And we know that you are an exoneree.
Correct.
Right. And how long were you in prison for?
24 years.
24 years. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. no joke.
Yeah.
And the last 9 of those 24 years was did at TAM's Supermax.
Oh.
That's where you're locked up 24 hours a day. Everything you do by yourself.
How did you deal with?
It's in a short period of words, I can say, by the grace of God, I survived. You know, plus the fact that my parents raised a stubborn boy. You know, that every time you put me in a situation where you say you're gonna make me do something, I do just the opposite. You know, so in TAMS, they said that they would break you mentally, physically, and spiritually. I said, no, you won't. And that was the stubbornness and the honoriness in me that kept me going and allowed me to survive.
Daryl's taking us to the place he was tortured so we can get a better idea of how it happened.
Keep straight. All the way down. You're going past the filling stations, everything. They did tell me that they had a scientific way of, quote, interrogating niggers. Now, I didn't know what that means other than I say, well,
You know, they're gonna beat me up a little bit. You know, okay, cool, I'm ready for it, come on. You know, but what they did to me, I had no idea.
And then they let you out, and did it just begin?
They told me to look around. In fact, the exact words were, look around, nigga. Nobody's gonna see you. Nobody's gonna hear you. Anything else. We can do anything we want to do to you here. And they proceeded to do just that.
You put you in a room, and while you're in that room, the man suddenly tells you, so you're gonna tell me what I want to know. You look at him like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. But he don't want to hear that. So you take a plastic bag, put it over your head. He tell you don't bite through it. You better not bite through it. And I bit through it because of the fact that I couldn't breathe. And he slapped me out the chair for it, but that's all right. I still tried to hold on because I said, man, this, somebody gonna come and stop it. But didn't nobody come that I know of. And then didn't nobody care really, because the man tortured me for, I could say hours, I could say a week, but I don't know how long it was. All I know is from the time I was in that room, them plastic bags, them shocking me.
You think about this. If you take an electric caliper and you stick it to a cow, as tough as a cow hide is, it'll make that cow jump and run like a racehorse. So now imagine that being stuck to a human being, to your skin.
Most of the time, you see police roll on somebody or do something to somebody, you heard about them beating you up, something like that there. Okay, so you get beat up, but you don't get tortured, you don't get almost killed. You know what I'm saying? You don't get electrocuted, you feel like needles going through your body, over 1,000 needles going through your body at one time. Your whole life flash in front of you. And you go numb. You lose the grips in your hands. Your ankles, you got handcuffs on your ankles with an electric shock to it and electricity going through your body. You jumping on the floor like somebody throwing, like you having a seizure or something. People stand up there laughing at you, calling you niggas and stuff like that.
They got to a point where they was like, man, they wanted me to say something that I didn't have it on the words for. So that's when they bought in a small box, and when they bought that in, they put it on the table, and he took my hands and put it on the table and told me if I move, what he'll do to me. So I put my hands on the table, and he put the wires on the metal pieces on my hand, and he shocked me. And then when he shocked me, I felt this electric stuff going through my body. I felt my eyes going all around my head, my jaws and my teeth just gripped it. And after they got through, I just it's like I blanked out. I fell on the table.
It got to the point where I was willing to say my mother did it.
And they came around with a statement and had me to sign it. So after I signed it, they put me in a bullpen and they took me to the Audi home.
Why would you torture somebody if you got the right evidence? You don't have to. You just take them to court and you present your evidence and you got them.
Present is Aaron Farrell, Assistant Public Defender, Sean Tyler, Julie Hull, Assistant Public Defender. What happened with Wiggins that made it such a unique case is that you had an eyewitness who rang the doorbell of the family of the victim and told them their son had been shot.
He was kneeling down, and Jesse Clemens fired 2 shots and ran.
And now they've got a problem because they've got an eyewitness who says, well, one person did the shooting, then how do you explain away these other kids confessing? Why do you confess to a crime that you didn't commit? Well, you do it if you're tortured.
A Chicago teenager is filing a civil rights lawsuit against former police commander John Burge.
Judge Strayhorn knew that it was a dangerous situation when he issued his protective order in this case for fear of what would happen, ordering no Chicago police officers to have any contact.
And when I went to court, the judge, he must have had all them orders done to come to court because all of them was there. I pointed them out, and we went from there.
The cops that tortured Marcus weren't fired, but the main guy, John Burge, who was their boss, he got fired a few months later. So we have this motive of retaliation that we should be thinking about in the back of our minds.
I do believe strongly that Marcus Wiggins' second murder case is related to his first murder case in ways that I'm not privileged to speak about at all.
I think this answered a lot of questions. Julie answered a lot of questions about the first case, and kind of about how it may be connected to the second case. But we still have like the second case that is the big question, like how did this happen? How could it happen? And I mean, we have theories, and theories based on evidence and testimony, but it still seems really...
I just can't understand how it could happen, and they have still gotten away with it. I can't understand the system, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to read through the actual trial.
We were all confused, and at first we weren't sure. We realized that a lot of the police officer names that we were seeing on the papers and in the file for the 98 case were also in the 1991 case when Marcus was tortured.
Officer O'Brien, he was the same one who hit me in the head with the flashlight when I was 13 years old. Stuck his head in the door and say, yeah, we got your ass now, and we gonna make sure we stick you with this one. So go ahead and put your thumb in your mouth now.
Talking about this with my dad a little bit on the way home from work one night, and he was a little bit skeptical because this really presents the idea of a police conspiracy, and we like to grow up and think that the police officers are only here to protect us and watch out for us and come to school and talk to the little kids and tell them that the police are our friends, and the truth is not all of them are, and that's sort of an uncomfortable reality to deal with.
I'm Katie.
Flint.
Nice to meet you.
Marcus, after he was released on this case, they brought a second case against him. And they used some of the same evidence and some of the same witnesses, and it was some of the same detectives who had been involved in his original case. And who had been involved in his torture and coercion.
We know for a fact that the police tried to set him up for 2 prior murders, and we know that happened. Did it happen a third time? Maybe. We can't say for sure at this point. We know he was tortured when he was 13. We know that they tried to implicate him in a murder that occurred after he was tortured when he was 13 years of age, and he could not have committed that murder because he had an ironclad alibi and was living up in Wisconsin at the time. So there were members of the police department, we know, who did not like Marcus Wiggins, did not like what he stood for, and possibly, were out to get him. Can we prove it in this case? Not yet. And so that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
I remember the feeling of leaving the prison and feeling so horrible that Marcus was not able to leave. I could walk out of the prison and I remember the sky was very blue and the sun was shining. And I felt very much what it was like to be outdoors while I knew that Marcus wasn't having that same experience.
And some students many times have a very difficult time going back to sort of their shifting gears. They work here at the clinic and then, they go home at night and, have their happy lives. And many of our students, many times find that very difficult to do when they know they have a client who's in prison. Many times we have to counsel students about those kind of feelings and how it's really important as a lawyer. You have to learn to separate. It's only healthy. You can't, because you're not going to be able to win every case. And you're not going to be able to set your client free in a short period of time, usually.
He talked about how he hated being in prison and how he wanted to be free to be with his family.
And that's one thing about that, the students of the school of law, if they know that you innocent, they're gonna fight for you. But they'll tell you straight up. They ain't finna cut no corners with you or anything. They're gonna tell you straight up. And I love them for that. I truly, I care about them. Yeah.
The bonds are deep here because we're doing something very special. We're representing people who have been wrongfully convicted. We have a situation here where all the players have told us themselves or told us through third parties that Marcus Wiggins did not commit the crime. The only person we've not talked to or heard from is Cedric Farley. And he is he was the one who gave, key testimony against Marcus Wiggins. And I don't know how we can unravel this wrongful conviction without talking to him and finding out what he has to say. It's key.
Cedric?
Yes. It's key.
Katie.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I guess this morning, Jennifer did an accurate search to try to find Cedric Farley again.
Okay.
And we were trying to find Cedric Farley with a name spelled with a C.
We want to run some searches.
Accurate
Okay. And so, if it's all right with you, Katie has the information.
There were some Wisconsin addresses and some Illinois
Yeah,
addresses.
I've got it. Nothing. See the little.
Cedric spelled with an S and then
Right.
changed it to Cedric spelled with a C.
Yeah, or could be that someone else changed it. And let's see what's on the. Let's go back and look at. Okay, we got 100. Where he is now?
Oh my gosh, that's the Wisconsin connection. That's him.
Yeah.
That's him.
Okay.
How come he didn't come up
I
before?
think we were looking CE. We just went SE. He was
Wow.
convicted of homicide.
He's in prison. We know where he is. Oh my gosh.
So here you go.
We've got to find out how we get in to see him. Call that correctional institution and find out what their
rules are.
What the rules are, and then we just go.
Okay.
We don't write him a letter. We just go.
I went back to the state's answer to discovery and look what I found. Oh no! I think we're gonna try to go to prison this week. Very excited.
All right. All right.
We're not too terribly late. I just drive up and we'll jump out. Just get your ID and don't bring anything else.
Oh, I can't bring my papers?
Oh, you bring papers, but don't bring money or anything.
I pray that this interview with Cedric Farley goes well. Marcus deserves the biggest break, and like I've said, this is the biggest break in the case that we've had. So, fingers crossed.
What did he tell you that was good?
Well, he told me the police did Marcus wrong. They did him wrong.
Right.
And I think he said that to you, too.
He did.
He didn't explain it. So I kept asking him what he meant by that.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
I've lost him.
So how's it going so far?
Go. Cynthia?
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
It might be. We'll have to continue this at the office tomorrow or something.
Okay. Okay, you're hitting dead zones, I think.
Yeah, but he doesn't know who shot Theopolis. He did not see who shot Theopolis. He said to me, and it was very hard to hear him, but he said to me the police did Marcus wrong. They did him wrong.
He said that the police did Marcus wrong.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
He said, it was that fucking identification was all fucked up. When they were going to do the lineup, they had him sitting at a desk, and they showed him a picture of Marcus Wiggins before the lineup.
They showed him a picture of Marcus Wiggins before the lineup?
Yeah.
Well, that's huge.
It's huge. And he was telling the boss that was bad, and they shouldn't have done that. And I knew it at the time, and they should not. And I guess it actually had his name on the picture.
And they show that picture to him before he views the lineup.
Yeah. Hello? That was Jane.
Cedric Farley was the last witness we've been looking for. He clearly confirmed that the police wanted Marcus in prison. They wanted him in prison as a revenge for revealing the misdeeds of their colleagues when he was 13. They put witnesses under pressure to point the finger on Marcus as a retaliation for John Burge.
A high-profile trial at the Dirksen Federal Building is moving into a new phase today.
I feel like anything that will bring John Burge into the public eye and under scrutiny, like a trial such as this, is great for Marcus because it just makes his case that much more sort of relevant and pressing for the media and the city.
John Burge was seen arriving for court today, but once the verdict was read, he was taken out of the Dirksen Federal Building, away from public view.
John Burge is found guilty of lying about the torture of suspects. Burge now faces up to 45 years in prison.
Former Chicago Police Commander John Burge broke the law, but is supposed to uphold it.
When you look at everything we've collected and you start connecting the dots, you see that this case begins with police torture and it ends with police intimidation and police retaliation. And the same detectives who were involved in the torture of Marcus Wiggins were involved with taking statements from witnesses who now claim that they were forced to tell a lie at trial. And so I think at the end of the day, we have got what we might call a Burge claim. When you look at all that we have done, at the end of the day, there's not one witness, not one piece of paper that is inconsistent with Marcus Wiggins's claim of actual innocence. We still have some tasks left to do, and today we'll make a list of what they are and decide who's going to complete those tasks. But I think now the time has come to put pen to paper. And I think now the time has come to explain to our listener, to the court, why Marcus's case should be heard, why he's innocent, and why he deserves a new trial.
We're all driving to Pinckneyville, I think I'm pronouncing that right, to visit Marcus.
Well, the
first is I expect that he'll be pretty excited to hear that we're starting to write the petition. It's been 2 years now of gathering evidence and investigating, talking to witnesses. So I think that he'll be happy to know that things are coming along.
It's gonna feel so good just to get outside that door, you know? It's gonna feel so good. I'm gonna spend a lot of time with my kids and really pay attention to them, listen to what they gotta say, and take it from there, you know? But yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good thing, yeah.
Thank you, Marcus, for letting me into your life in this way. And you've changed my life. So I hope that some of the work that I've done in this case will end up changing yours.
After meeting Marcus and learning so much about him, it's not like he just disappeared from my life. Like, it's something that I'll, remember forever and will affect my life probably forever. It's definitely not something that I can just forget about. I wish I could see Marcus walk free from prison, but after all of this, I understand that it takes a lot more time than any of us would have expected. It's so easy to get really cynical about not only the legal system, but just the world in general when you're learning about this kind of thing, because so many awful things have happened to the people we've met, and it's hard to see the positive side, but I think the positive side is that there are so many people who care and who are doing whatever they can to stop this kind of thing from happening.
A lot I could say, but I'm not going to hold up time. But the bottom line is, we thankful for the people that believed in us after all these years.
All the people that stood by my side for all those years. And I love what I see here today. People from all walks of life coming together to see that truth has a voice.
I'm very grateful to be here, and God willing, we'll continue to fight for those who are still languishing in prison. God bless us all.